Once again, it is I, the Nomad, coming to you live from the wastelands of the internet. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I come with news of the week. and, I apologize for being a bit late this morning. I was busy chatting with my sibling, all right, specifically my sister in this case, who had called me, all right, to talk to me about various things, all right, related to uh, my father's death and so forth. So we were discussing a few things, and of course other issues that came up. I wasn't sure if you forgot to go live again. Yeah. Not saying I can't have a boomer moment. Can't say that I've had moments like that before. I mean, it's perfectly acceptable to believe that. Um, Obviously, I've committed that faux pas in the past. All right, so it's perfectly understandable, Mr. Barkley. Hope that you're having a good day. All right, the day has just started and it's over 90 degrees already here. It's actually around 95. but but it's a dry heat. All right, the monsoons are here. The humidity for us is a bit higher than normal. All right, it's in the double digits at this point. However, it's in the low double digits. We've only had a few of the thunder showers that have come in. All right, so I can see it's 84 there, which 84 at 1 o'clock. Yeah, you won't. You probably won't even see the high of what I have right now as it starts to go up. Right, I doubt you'll get to even 95 for the rest of the day. All right, but your humidity is so much higher, so I'm not saying that I'm jealous or anything because I'm not. I mean, the lack of humidity is very helpful to me. All right, but we have news of the week. Let's get started, shall we? Exclusive! Abu Shabaab forces emerge as new militia in Gaza to challenge Hamas's control. From Euronews. The Popular Forces, a new Palestinian militia in Gaza, aims to challenge Hamas and its rule. However, skepticism surrounds the group over its ability to assert itself, as well as its leader, Yasser Abu Shabaab, and his criminal past. Yay, a new militia. The 300 member strong Palestinian militia has emerged in Gaza and aiming to liberate the Strip from Hamas, and now says it has the backing of Israel. What have I told you guys? How many times have I told you guys this? The problem isn't just that you have that you have a Hamas, okay? The problem is the people's acceptance of Hamas like terrorists. The war, okay, unfortunately, is still going on there, and people are, of course, our people are dying. Don't you understand? No, man, people are dying, right? And let's take a look at something here. Let's take a look at this, and we'll blow this up down here. Here's the Gaza Strip. Okay, you can see that the Israelis are bombing the holy crap out of it still. All right, there's deaths up here. There's deaths over here. All right, the little green symbol for Hamas. All right, instead of the blue bombs for Israel, we're going to use brown for them, but we're going to sit up there and use Hamas colors for the poor indigenous Palestinians. This is a joke, okay? The problem, the real problem, not the symptom. Hamas is a symptom. Al Shabaab is a symptom. All right. If you take a look over here, there's still other issues over here. Okay. where Palestinians are being attacked and attacking, all right, in several areas, including down here in Hebron, all right, which is really a hot spot down here, all right, that you can see. And of course, you end up with attacks in Lebanon, all right, where the Israeli killed a Hezbollah member, all right, as well as a cabinet member of the Lebanese government, all right. But the problem is this region has an acceptance, all right, of what used to be called uncivilized behavior. Period. It's not going to be fixed. Okay? With getting rid of Hamas, which is what Israel said, we got to get rid of Hamas. Why? It's just getting rid of one terrorist group. They'll just change the name. Now it's going to be Al Shabaab, and they'll go right back to it again. Right? Because the people themselves have no freaking problem, all right, acting uncivilized and supporting uncivilized action. They have no problem with it. They have almost no problem at all. Israel has finally gotten somewhat serious. And what they're starting to do is they're trying to set up a camp, all right, for quote unquote refugees, but the camp ain't going to be the previous refugee camps. They're going to be real refugee camps, right? Where they take all the people and they control the entrances and the exits, and the only people who can come in there are not going to be armed. And they're going to sit up there and take all the people out of these areas in the Gaza Strip. This is only a 2-mile wide area, folks. It's only like 5 miles long. It's not like you don't have the ability to take every freaking person out of those areas and totally wipe the areas out. And that's what I'd be doing. If you're a civilian, come with us. No, we will stay here. We enjoy being the human shield for the Hamas terrorists. Okay. Everybody that wants to eat, come with us. The rest of you, expect to be exterminated. That's what it would take. That's what it's going to take to fix this. And all the hand wringing, and all the all that crap goes to the wayside. Whether the German people like it or not, when the Nazis took over and started committing atrocity after atrocity, even if they were not involved with the atrocities themselves, the Germans supporting, quote unquote, Germany was supporting the Nazis and ended up killing how many people? Even though the average German was, quote unquote, peaceful? Just wanted peace? Japan was the same way. In some ways, more militant, but Japan was the same way. How are you going to solve the situation? But you think going out there with a cookie drive is going to fix it? Oh, if we just understand their cultures. If we just understand, it has nothing to do with understanding culture. It literally doesn't. One of the problems that these idiots have is they don't understand the respect. You don't believe me? Take a look at this. Iranian cleric offers a reward for whoever brings the head of Trump. An Iranian cleric has offered a reward to anyone who brings the head of Trump, according to an exiled Iranian outlet, adding to the calls from several Iranian figures and state-aligned media for the president's assassination. Mansour Imami, all right, a state-appointed official from the West Azerbaijan province of northwestern Iran, offered a substantial reward for Trump's assassination, according to the UK-based Iranian International Opposition outlet, and the state-run Hawza, all right, news agency. Newsweek has been unable to independently verify these reports. Okay, Ellie Cook. Okay. To me, it seems like, why haven't you sit up there and done your due diligence? Newsweek has contacted Iran's foreign ministry for comment via email on Thursday. Well, what? Okay, you contacted them. What was the reply? What was the reply? I'm kind of serious here. What was the reply to this? You said you were doing your due diligence. Okay, what was the reply? Well, you contacted them via email. Why didn't you call them? You're gonna tell me you don't have freaking your own little groups of people to sit up there and contact these people, get all the information that you need? Is this civilized behavior? No reply or verification. It seems like. No, it's because they basically play the game. We don't want to admit to what we're actually doing. We don't want to admit to what they're actually doing over there. It's obvious that they have the ability to confirm whether or not this guy said this. They obviously have the ability to do it. You're not going to tell me Newsweek does not have the ability to sit up there and have somebody listen to this guy, because I guarantee you it's been recorded, and sit up there and go, okay, well, let's get somebody that speaks Farsi, right? Or Persian, if you want to go back to the old way they called it, right? Farsi being separate from Arabic, right? And see whether or not the guy called for freaking assassination of President Trump. You gonna tell me you couldn't have done that already? You gonna tell me it would have taken how many more phone calls it would have taken? Probably took them longer to sit up there and do the report than it could have been to verify the damn thing. Yet they don't want to verify it because they don't want to even report the story. They got to figure out a way to report it as anti-Trump because they agree with the guy. They agree with him. Meanwhile, Iran executes 6 people after speedy trials, arrests hundreds in espionage crackdown during the Israeli war. Iranian authorities have executed 6 people and arrested 700 in a nationwide crackdown, all right, during its 12-day war with Israel. After Israel's bombardment of Tehran's nuclear program exposed the extent of the Jewish state's infiltration of Iran, the Islamic Republic began sweeping up residents on suspicion of treachery, with half a dozen killed in lightning-fast trials, according to the Center for Human Rights in Iran. The human rights groups and local media estimate that more than 700 were arrested across 5 Iranian provinces. All right, with many of the incarcerated clueless about the charges being levied against them. Ashgar Jahangir, 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 whatever. All right, a spokesman for Iran's judiciary said that the state will soon reveal exactly how many people were arrested in the sweeps, as well as what charges they will face. He told reporters Sunday that many were arrested for spying for the Zionist regime, just as the Iranian parliament announced an emergency bill to impose harsher punishments, including the death penalty, over espionage charges. So basically, they're going to execute some 700 people. Does it surprise anybody? Does it? Meanwhile, we're back to this. Ship attacked by Yemen's Houthi rebels sinks in the Red Sea. 6 of 25 aboard were rescued. A Liberian-flagged cargo ship attacked by Yemen's Houthi rebels sank Wednesday in the Red Sea, and a European naval force in the Middle East says only 6 of the 25 people who were on board have been rescued. The attack on the Eternity Sea, which also killed at least 3 of the crew, represents the most serious assault carried out by the Houthis in the crucial maritime trade route where $1 trillion in cargo once passed through annually. From November 2023 to December 2024, the Houthis targeted more than 100 ships with missiles and drones in a campaign the rebels describe as supporting Palestinians in the Gaza Strip during the Israeli-Hamas war. The Iranian-backed rebels stopped their attacks during a brief ceasefire in the war. Later, they became the target of an intense week-long campaign of airstrikes ordered by President Donald Trump. The attack on the Eternity Sea, as well as the sinking of a bulk carrier Magic Seas in another attack Sunday, raised new questions about the Red Sea's safety as ships had slowly begun returning to the waters. Meanwhile, a new possible ceasefire. All right, the ceasefire in there is not the problem. What you have to do is just wipe out Al Houthis. Just go in there with B-52s and start gridding the place. It's the only solution. These people are not civilized. Just bomb them until they say, okay, civilization means that they can wipe us out. That's all they understand. The people of these areas have to understand they can no longer sit on the sidelines and support people acting uncivilized. That they have to get rid of these criminals. Or they're going to sit up there and be removed. Because these criminals can only do what they're doing with their support. But no, man, that's making people responsible for their actions to others. They don't want to have to do this. Yes, they do. If they don't want to be human shields, they would be already getting rid of these guys. This shit has to. You're gonna have to come to Jesus with this. You're gonna have to come to Jesus with this. Meanwhile, on the other war front, unfortunately, 2 killed, 20 injured in an airstrike on western Ukraine. A barrage of drones and missiles launched by Russian forces overnight on Friday targeted the cities in Ukraine's western regions, killing at least 2 people and injuring 20 others, the local authorities reported. In the city of Chernivtsi, okay, a 26-year-old woman and a 43-year-old man were killed by falling debris from enemy targets. Regional Governor Ruslan Zapranyuk, said on Telegram. 14 others were injured, with 4 in critical condition and fighting for their lives in local hospitals. The attack on Chernivtsi, damaged residential and administrative buildings, shops, and vehicles. In the city of Lviv, I don't know if that's supposed to be Kiev. 6 people, including an 11-year-old child, were injured, and 2 industrial facilities were damaged. The regional military administration reported. Lviv Mayor Andriy Sadovy, yeah, I don't know. Wrote on Telegram that over 20 commercial structures, 46 residential buildings, 3 university buildings, and city courts were also damaged. In the neighboring Volyn region, 35 drones and 2 missiles targeted the city of Lutsk, said the governor Ivan Runitsky. Not trying to butcher these names. Adding that intercepted air targets damaged a house and several other vehicles with no casualties. President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the Russians had launched 26 cruise missiles and 597 drones at the Ukraine overnight About 20 missiles and the vast majority of drones were intercepted. However, unfortunately, the Russians are still making progress. That's the way it is. The Russians keep making progress, right? And unfortunately, it's still going on. Eldridge Kobe is right. This is from Brandon Wichert. All right, at the National Interest, I believe. Yes. All right, about the Ukraine. From the onset of Trump's diplomacy attempt, the Russians have been clear. The only way to a peace negotiation is for the U.S. and NATO to stop flooding Ukraine with weapons. We're going to send them some more weapons, all right? They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons, defensive weapons primarily, but they're getting hit very hard, said President Donald Trump in a recent meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, res- resuming the vital lifeline of supplies that have kept Ukraine afloat in its 3-year war against Russia. This move by President Trump, with both Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and CIA Director John Radcliffe sitting to his left at the table in the White House, was a direct presidential countermand to the move by Undersecretary of Defense for Policy Eldridge Colby last week. To be clear, Colby is one of the few remaining true Trump-aligned realists in a senior role at the Pentagon. He is surrounded by neoconservatives who push constantly to send whatever arms and funds the Americans can proffer to Ukraine. Colby's decision to temporarily halt the arms shipment intended for Ukraine came after a classified review conducted of America's arsenals. The review apparently found that the cupboards were nearly bare, and Colby calculated that America could not hand over its few remaining key systems to Ukraine rather than keeping those defensive systems in reserve in the event that the United States required those weapons somewhere else. Critics of Colby immediately lambasted him. Why do we have to again? All right, but here's the problem: if we don't send weapons, if we don't send weapons, what happens? What happens? I, I, Jensen, I apologize, but I hope this. British soldiers heading to the Ukraine. Starmer sends troops to end Putin's war. The British government is framing the troop deployment as a preparation for peace. The UK is prepared to deploy troops to Ukraine in support of a ceasefire agreement aimed at ending the war in Russia. Defense Secretary John Healey confirmed the move, saying that the Prime Minister is ready to put soldiers into Ukraine as part of a wider coalition of the willing. Led by the UK and France, the coalition seeks to safeguard peace if hostilities between Ukraine and Russia cease. France and Britain are expected to contribute the largest share of peacekeeping force, though backing from the United States remains key. Get it? Tell me, where are the Italians? Where are the Germans? Where are the Belgians? Where are the Dutch? Where are the Swedes? Where's the Norwegians? Where are all these erstwhile European allies? Where's the Spanish? Where's the Portuguese? Where are all these NATO allies? Where are the Austrians? Where are the Hungarians? Where are the Romanians? Where are they all? Why is it that if we pull out, Ukraine falls? Hey, Shrapnel. Why is it? You got how many countries in the EU? The EU is superior to the United States in all ways. Just ask them. So why do you need the U.S. again? To take on a single country called Russia in the Ukraine? Dead serious. Why is it that the EU, which has several nation states such as France and Germany, whose economies dwarf Russia's, okay, how is it that they need American support, hey Oz, to defend the Ukraine? That the Ukraine falls without American support? Why is it? Yet when it comes to UN resolution after UN resolution, the Europeans basically stick their finger up and sit up there and give us the middle finger. Comes to any kind of other thing, the Europeans can just stick their fingers up. Well, you know what? What happens when America says, you know what? Screw you people, we'll stick our finger up. And that's what we should be doing right now. We should be pulling completely out of the Ukraine. Yes, yeah, I know what that means for the Ukrainians. And I feel for them. But you know what? We don't have a dog in this fight, number one. And number two is, if you don't like it, go back to your buddies in the European Union and tell them to stop messing with the United States. Stop pissing us off. It's time for the Europeans to step up. It's time for the Europeans, all right, to understand that America is no longer going to be their freaking patsies. And you can take the great Luftwaffe and you can take the great Wehrmacht and the French Foreign Legion and you can go over there, all right, and go take care of this problem. You shouldn't have any problem whatsoever. We have no reason to help you. We're allies. Then start acting like allies. If they're such great allies, let them start acting like it instead of backstabbing weasels, which is all they've ever been. Now that I've got that rant out of the way. And our other wonderful enemy, a sea of steel, watch as a huge fleet of terrifying new Chinese tank boats takes to the water as Taiwan launches its biggest ever war drills. Footage captures a fleet of Chinese tank boats charging through the sea in tight formation during military drills near Taiwan. The show of force by the People's Liberation Army comes as Taiwan kicks off its largest ever military exercise. Okay. I'm just going to put it out there. If the Chinese attempt this kind of stunt against Taiwan, if you come up in a line like this against Taiwan, without achieving not air superiority, air supremacy over all of Taiwan, there's going to be a lot of Chinese bodies floating in the sea. I'm just putting it. Now, maybe that's their goal. Drop enough of these tanks in there to create a land bridge all the way from mainland China all the way to Taiwan. Maybe that's their goal. I don't know. But this kind of stunt. Oh my God, this is such a stunt. You you are not going to you are not going to do this, folks. Oh my God, do you realize how badly these things would be, how quickly these things would be destroyed? For crying out loud, you could sit in frickin' bunkers on the coastline and just throw tow missile after tow missile at these things and let them just sink into the ocean. That, of course, is my daughter who is trying to call me. I'm going to have to let me send a text to her so she understands I'm not ignoring her. Do do do. I will call later. There. Let's get going, shall we? Okay. She responds. Meanwhile, back in the good old USA, an anti-government militia group claims responsibility for vandalism to News 9 radars. This is in Oklahoma by Sylvia Corkill. An anti-government militia group claims to be responsible for vandalizing News 9's radar. News 9 security cameras captured two people said who police said is Anthony Mitchell destroying the power supply to News 9's Next Gen Live radar in northeast Oklahoma City. Mitchell was arrested Tuesday for an unrelated crime. Right? Police have since filed complaints against Mitchell related to this crime, but have not confirmed any connection to the group in question. Following his, the shirt was a dead giveaway. All right. Following the arrest, Veterans on Patrol, an anti-government militia group, claimed responsibility for the vandalism. While it's unknown if Mitchell has ties to the group, its founder, Michael Lewis Arthur Mayer, admitted to encouraging the destruction of the weather radars and to targeting another weather radar in Oklahoma earlier this month. The group believes that the military is using the radars to alter the weather. When the military plays God with the weather, they are mocking our Heavenly Father, said Veterans on Patrol founder Michael Lewis Arthur Meyer. Okay, dude. Radar. Oh my God. Radar is not affecting the weather. Okay? I'm just putting it out there. If weather is being affected by radar, our enemies would be sitting up there doing it to us left and right. I'm just putting it out there, dumbass. Alcohol giant lays off more than 1,750 workers after abruptly quitting businesses in California. What a surprise! America's second largest alcohol distributor said it is laying off more than 1,700 employees after announcing it is pulling out of business in California. Republic National Distributing, once a dominant company that linked famous beer and vodka brands with local bars, filed paperwork to lay off 1,756 employees, staffers in sales, analytics, and HR roles across California are set to get their pink slips. The job cuts are coming as the Texas-based company plans to shutter its distribution operations in California by September 2nd. It's the latest warning sign for an industry that's already struggling with closures and job losses as Americans increasingly cut back on alcohol. Somehow I don't think that that's the issue. Hey, TC. There are reportedly three main reasons for the statewide departure: increasing debt, sky high costs, and the loss of important contracts to competitors. That is not a surprise. Okay? If you end up losing freaking, distribution contracts, what do you expect to happen? The former company worker claimed that the company is terribly run and its executives were in over their heads in the Golden State. I can believe uh, that it's a problem, but I think this other statement is probably more. This other sentence here is probably more accurate. California remains a conundrum for business leaders. Businesses in the state make more money than any other U.S. market. It's the fourth largest economy in the world, but also one of the most expensive places to do business. Um, yeah, and it's going to become more expensive, and its economy is going to start dropping. People don't like this, but the main reason is governments. The main reason they talk about how this is the fourth biggest economy in the world is because of the government. But what's going to start happening when the government starts pulling contracts and all these things? California is a large. First of all, one of the things people don't realize is how large California is. Okay, California landmass wise is massive. It has a lot going for it. Okay, it's got huge agricultural areas. It's got huge mineral resource areas. Yes, there is oil under California. Okay, but there's no industrial base anymore. They've destroyed it. And the California people elected in Marxists who were going about destroying it. This is why even with the massive, and I mean it's been a massive influx of illegal aliens, all right, into California, even though that's been happening, the, the population of California has been shrinking. So this supposed economy that they're talking about relies upon what? It relies upon these agricultural areas now that are under heavy assault. Now, how did they get away with this for so long? Because people forget this. The U.S. has massive, the United States has massive federal areas under its control that just totally and artificially pumps up these areas. Do you realize the amount of federal dollars that go into Berkeley, that go into the University of Southern California, that go into UCLA? Do you realize the amount of money it takes to sit up there and keep the Marine Corps base in Miramar and several of the other major Edwards Air Force Base? Has anybody heard of this Edwards Air Force Base? And they've been mismanaging it all. And Trump is basically cracking down on it. They're losing a lot of revenue in that regard. How many people have heard of Livermore Labs? There are huge areas there that rely completely upon the federal government. You start removing those areas. You start removing all those assets. All of a sudden, California's economy starts to drop like a flippin' rock. And then you have this going on. One California worker dead. He wasn't a California worker, he was an illegal alien. Hundreds arrested after cannabis farm raid. So, marijuana pot farm. A California farm worker, he wasn't a Californian. He was an illegal alien, died Friday from injuries sustained a day earlier when the U.S. immigration raids raided a cannabis operation and arrested hundreds of workers, according to the Farm Worker Advocacy Group. Oh, but how did he sustain injuries? He was trying to hide on a roof and fell off and broke his neck. Separately, a federal judge in California ordered the Trump administration to temporarily halt some of its most aggressive tactics in rounding up undocumented immigrants, which is going to get ignored. Dozens of migrant rights activists faced off with federal agents in rural Southern California on Thursday. It was the latest escalation of President Donald Trump's campaign for mass deportation of immigrants in the U.S. illegally. And yet you called them Californians. Who wrote this? Leah Douglas. Why did you lie, Leah? He wasn't a Californian. He was an illegal alien. As an illegal alien, you cannot be a California citizen. So why are you calling him a Californian, Leah? You lied! It's not a faux pas. It's not, well, it's my opinion. It's not an opinion. Donald Trump's administration has made conflicting statements about whether immigration agents will target farm labor workforce, about half of which is unauthorized to work in the United States, according to government estimates. The Department of Homeland Security said approximately 200 people in the county illegally were arrested in the raid, which targets two locations of the cannabis operation Glass House Farms. The agents also found 10 migrant minors at the farm. The department said in an emailed statement, the facility is under investigation for child labor violations. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Rodney Scott posted on X. The company did not immediately respond to a request for comment. They donated millions, this company, all right, to guess who? Gavin Scumbag. Gavin Newsom. These people got raided, all right, and have been illegally hiring people because you can't legally hire illegal aliens. So tell me, how did they have over 200 people in these farms with illegal aliens? How do you have that? How do you have underage children working on these farms? On cannabis farms, of all things. Oh, it's a perfectly legal cannabis farm. Meanwhile, California bishop lifts Sunday mass obligation for churchgoers fearful of ICE raids. A California bishop lifted the Sunday mass obligation in his diocese, citing some parishioners' fears of potential immigration enforcement actions as the Trump administration's mass deportation campaign sweeps the country. San Bernardino Bishop Alberto Rojas, all right, issued the decree on Tuesday, which said all members of his diocese who, due to genuine fear of immigration enforcement actions, are unable to attend Sunday Mass or Masses on holy days of obligation are dispensed from this obligation until further notice. The Diocese of San Bernardino includes 1.6 million Roman Catholic believers across San Bernardino and Riverside counties in Southern California, according to the diocese website. Both counties have large Latino populations. In issuing this decree, I am guided by the church's mission, right, to care for the spiritual welfare of all those entrusted to my care, particularly those who face fear or hardship, Rojas wrote. He cited the concerns expressed by many of our brothers and sisters regarding fears of attending Mass due to potential immigration enforcement actions by civil authorities. Right now, what you just saw was a coward. And I don't like saying this. But this bishop, Alberto Reyes, is a coward. An absolute coward. I'm not joking about this. Now, why do I call him a coward? Well, he's standing up to the Trump administration. Doesn't understand, no man. He's standing up. He's not a coward. No, he's a coward. The church has a standing policy of sanctuary. That's a standing in the church. What he basically did was say, well, if you come here to get arrested, we're not going to offer you sanctuary. He doesn't want to confront the federal government. This guy's a freaking absolute coward. All these people looking at this are like, oh, look, he's trying to help the immigrants. No, he's not. He's not trying to help anybody but himself. And he's certainly not helping the Catholic Church with this kind of freaking ridiculous statement. The community is fearful. For what? Of being deported back to Mexico. From a Catholic Church's standpoint, whether you're attending church in the United States or attending church in Mexico shouldn't make a difference. What are they really in fear of? Being sent back to where they came from? Meanwhile, Trump continues his ravaging of the federal government. State Department starts firing more than 1,350 workers in Trump's shakeup of the diplomatic corps. Should be the ending of it. The layoffs affect 1,107 civil service and 246 foreign service workers. Critics say it hampers U.S. ability to counter threats abroad. The shakeup is to align U.S. foreign policy with America first. And where are 350 of these jackasses being dumped from? From the climate group within the State Department. So basically, a quarter of the people being let go come directly from the State Department's climate change operation, which they've ended. More are on the way. Because you need to get rid of the vast majority of these boll weevils. Because they think they control U.S. policy, not that the U.S. policy comes from the President of the United States. President Trump and Secretary of State Rubio are once again making America less safe and less secure, said Democrat Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia. All right. This is one of the most ridiculous decisions that could possibly be made at a time when China is increasing its diplomatic footprint around the world and establishing an overseas network of military and transportation bases. Russia is continuing its years-long brutal assault of a sovereign country, and the Middle East is careening from crisis to crisis, Kaine said. Well, first of all, is any of that new? How long has China been increasing its diplomatic footprint around the world and been pushing to establish overseas network of military and transportation bases? Something which during the Biden administration was, ole, let it happen, as he sold American interests out, all right, for Chinese interests in the Panama Canal. Does anybody remember that? Where were you, Timmy boy? Because you didn't give a shit about that. So we know that you don't care about that. As far as Russia's brutal campaign, what have you done to stop it? On this sovereign country. What have you done to stop it? What are the requirements for a nation state, Timmy boy? Just asking. And when hasn't the Middle East been careening from crisis to crisis? Can somebody tell me when last time that they thought that the Middle East was ever stable? Outside, dozens of others were lined up to continuing clapping and cheering, with some holding banners that read, "Thank you, America's diplomat." Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen attended the demonstration. Can somebody tell me if these people are just U.S. bureaucrats, just standard U.S. bureaucrats, why only the U.S. bureaucrats vote for Democrats? Can you tell me why these people who are supposed to be nonpartisan and non-political, why they always get the support, or they always are part of the support base of the Democrat Party? If they're supposedly, they're just like every other average American. No, they're Democrat lunatics who have a Democrat agenda, a Marxist agenda, all right, for the world. Getting rid of these people is just a start. You got to totally fumigate the federal government. But nomad. What about Epstein? Bondi hit by high-level whistleblower amid Epstein backlash. Attorney General Pam Bondi scrambled Thursday to discredit a Justice Department whistleblower, accusing the DOJ leadership of planning to ignore court orders, piling more pressure on her leadership amid an intense backlash of her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. We support legitimate whistleblowers, but this is a disgruntled employee, not a whistleblower. He's a leaker asserting a false claim, seeking 5 minutes of fame. Erez Revenue, a former dun, 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 Justice Department attorney, filed the complaint in the Senate last month, alleging that senior DOJ officials and a federal judge nominee, all right, Email Bove, suggested in a March 14th meeting that the DOJ staff should say F you to courts and defy any order to block migrant deportations. All right, first of all, the Epstein case has nothing to do with deportations and this disgruntled freaking leftist activist. That's who this DOJ judge was, or this DOJ attorney. So firing him, he's mad because his cushy little federal job, which he was basically raping the American people for millions and millions of dollars for, his little cushy job is now over. And they're saying ignore the federal judges, ignore the court orders. Well, the Supreme Court basically said start ignoring the freaking federal judges. But if you didn't bother to read that, you could have a problem. But Pam Bondi and the Epstein files, there's a problem. Okay? And it's a legitimate problem because they said they would release everything. They can't. They cannot. Okay? And this has got Kash Patel. And this has got Dan Bongino, right, who is apparently threatened to resign, according to reports. Dan Bongino, excuse me. um, they are upset because they want to release the data, but they can't. And the reason they can't is not what a lot of people think it is. It's not protecting this high official in American government, although they're benefiting from it without a doubt. The problem is even with that is who else is on that list and what was Epstein Island being used for? All right. Now, first of all, there is no quote unquote list that was put together by Epstein. And any list that was put together by those who were looking at the files that Epstein had that was in the DOJ, all right, or the Attorney General and the FBI and all these other areas. anybody that was in part of that, those things have all been destroyed. Okay, I fully believe that. I believe that any list that had existed before has been wiped off the face of the earth by those groups. Oh, there's still a list. I mean, you got Ghislaine Maxwell. She had a list. like did she use her list, right? So what's the problem? The problem resides, right, in the fact that several of the people involved in this are intelligence assets, like the CIA. That Epstein's Island was used to compromise, okay, several people to turn them into U.S. assets. And outing that list will get them killed in their home countries. Hey, Sixer. Hey, El Hydra. That's why they don't want to turn this list over. That's why they're having such a long time. And that's also why Dan Bongino, he wants out. Ships have a list. Oh, wait, the wrong list. They're going to have to come out with something. And the fact that they froze because other assets and other agencies within the government were saying, hey, you can't just let this happen, because it affects a lot of their operations if you completely release that list. Even if you don't completely release the list, if you add certain people to that list, they then have threatened to go, we're going to go public with the other people who we know were there. That's why this list hasn't been released. Now, do I like that? No. They're going to have to release something. They're going to have Pam Bondi is going to have to say, look, okay. And here's the other thing that they've got to be careful of. Releasing all the tapes that show underage minors having sex with some of these elderly people is a problem. Now, many of these people are no longer underage, but you're going to need to get their consent before you release any of this stuff. And that's what I'd be, if I was Pam Bondi, that's what I'd be doing. And that's what I'd be saying I'm trying to do. The problem is all it's going to do is cause more questions. Well, we've got these people you slept with. Well, is this all the people you slept with? The answer, of course, is going to be no. Well, then who else did you sleep with? And the person's going to come out with all sorts of things. So there's a lot of things going on with this. Meanwhile, dun 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 dun, the plane crash tragedy. Did pilot deliberately crash Air India plane? Flight safety expert says new investigative revelations mean action by the crew was absolutely the cause of the disaster that killed 241 people. Fresh forensic evidence from the tragic Air India crash, which claimed the lives of 241 passengers, suggests crew actions were absolutely the cause of the tragedy, an aviation expert has claimed. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner crashed mere minutes after it had taken off from Ahmedabad airport on June 12th, plummeting into a residential area called Meghani Nagar, while claiming 19 more lives on the ground. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, have since released the first forensic details of the tragedy, which could reveal the cause of what is said to be one of the worst tragedies in Air India's aviation industry. Among the new information is a final conversation between the doomed aircraft's pilots captured using the cockpit voice recording, suggesting that the fuel had been cut off in their final moments. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner is thought to have lost power when the fuel cutoff switches, almost simultaneously flipped. Fuel cutoff switches don't simultaneously flip, okay? Unless somebody is intentionally trying to crash the plane. Each lever has to be pulled upwards and to be unlocked before it can be flipped. They also have further protective guard brackets to safeguard against any bumps or nudges. It has to be done manually. It cannot be done automatically or due to power failure. The fuel selectors aren't the sliding type. They are always in a slot. So it sounds like that this crash, by the way, this is from the Daily Mail, from Shannon McGooligan, wasn't an accident. It sounds like someone in the crash was screaming Allahu Akbar in her own way. It's a religion of peace, Nomad. Don't you understand? It's a religion of peace. Oh, that's just absolute heinous speculation. Why else would a person do it? Well, I could have been having marital difficulties. We don't really know. I guarantee you, okay, just by how this is coming out, that somebody was Allahu Akbaring. All right, I suspect they're gonna find. Could I be wrong? Is it possible? Yes, anything is possible in this regard. But somebody did that. That was not an accident. It was not an accident, folks. Meanwhile, I'd be proud to be thrown out of America, said Eric Idle on Trump. Life after Python and not talking before lunch. Ahead of his UK tour, the former Monty Python star responds to questions from Catherine Zeta-Jones, all right, David Mamet, and Janet Sussman, Steve Coogan, Bill Oddie, and others. When news broke in 2021 that Eric Idle had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, dismay was followed by relief when he survived to get the all clear. Okay, first of all, pancreatic cancer has a 5% survival rate. This guy beat the odds. Okay? Just glad for him. Right? Now 83, Idol is thriving and about to embark on his first UK tour since 1973. Over haddock and chips in London last month, a gentle and friendly Idol answered questions submitted by readers and fellow writers, actors, and comedians about his time as a Python. Broadcast Smash Spamalot, his musical adaptation of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, as well as Selfies, Peter Cook, and why he feels sorry for the Royals. What's generally funny about Donald Trump, said Tracy Ullman. There's nothing funny about Donald Trump. What will be funny is when he leaves office, we have a big party and dance in the streets. Trump seems to have no end of capacity for stupidity. I think he's a treasonous monster who works for Putin. Every summer I go to France because I can't stand the news. Don't come back. Hey, Brit, stay over there. Stay. Now, I'm a Monty Python fan, I'll be honest with you. I'm a fanboy. But if that's your attitude, stay. Don't come back. Stay away. Why do you even come to the United States? Being rich helps. It's amazing, isn't it? From the smoking gun. Naked duo was having sex in a stolen RV. A West Virginia couple was naked and having sex in a stolen RV when the cop pulled the moving vehicle over after spotting the driver being straddled by his intoxicated female passenger, according to a criminal complaint. During the traffic stop Wednesday afternoon in Bluesfield in Appalachian Mountains City, the patrolman approached the RV, found Shannon Bryant, 35, now sitting behind the wheel. The passenger yelled out at the occupants, which switched seats before I made contact with them, stated Officer R.L. Ham, all right, who had added that Matthew McDonald, 48, was in the passenger seat. I inquired about their actions while the vehicle was in motion, to which Ms. Bryant candidly responded, "We were effing." Bryant, who appeared to be highly intoxicated, why would you switch out? Why would you switch out with the intoxicated drunk? Oh my god, this goes on to the stupid criminal list. Oh my god. McDonald were ordered out of the RV after being read his rights. McDonald reportedly admitted that he and Bryant were naked and attempting to engage in sexual activity while driving, and that they had switched suites upon spotting the squad car. The subsequent search of the vehicle turned up drug paraphernalia, a bag containing a white powdery substance. Investigators recovered painkillers and broken glass pipe. Right? In the area where Bryant told police that McDonald had thrown drugs from the vehicle during the traffic stop. The vehicle check revealed that the RV had been reported stolen from Princeton, a nearby city. They were arrested for indecent exposure, drug paraphernalia, DUI, and possession of a stolen vehicle. Both defendants have pled not guilty and have extensive criminal records and have not been able to post bond. How stupid! How stupid can you get, folks? From the AP. Ospreys came back from the brink once. Now chicks are dying in nests, and some blame overfishing. Gloucester Point, Virginia. Stepping onto an old wooden duck blind in the middle of New York River, Brian Watts looks down at a circle of sticks and pine cones on the weathered, guano-spattered platform. It's a failed osprey nest taken over by diving terns. The birds never laid here this year. Watts near the mouth of Virginia's Chesapeake Bay. And what that's a pattern we've been seeing these last couple of years. Fish-eating raptor known for its gymnastic dives and whistle-like chirps is an American conservation success story. After pesticides and other hazards nearby eliminated species from much of the country, the hawk-like bird rebounded after banning DDT in 1972 and now numbers in the thousands in the United States. But Watts has documented an alarming trend. The birds, which breed in many parts of the U.S., are failing to successfully fledge enough chicks around their key population center of Chesapeake Bay. The longtime biologist blames the decline of menhaden, a small schooling fish critical to the osprey diet, which without menhaden to eat, the chicks are starving and dying in the nests. Watt claims that he put him and the environmental groups at odds with the fishing industry, trade unions, and sometimes government regulators. Menhaden is valuable for fish oil, fish meal, and agricultural food as well as bait. U.S. fishermen have caught at least 1.1 billion pounds of menhaden every year since 1951. Members of the industry tout its sustainability and said the decline in osprey may have nothing to do with the fishing. But without help, the osprey population could tumble to levels not seen since the dark days of DDT. Make more fish, right? Farm these fish. If they're like that, We have successful fish farms. Farm the damn things. Then you can feed the damn osprey. Let them come over and freaking eat the damn things. Meanwhile, in Japan, Hokkaido's first bear warning issued in town after a fatal attack. Hokkaido on Saturday issued a strong warning of brown bears across one of its towns following a fatal attack on a newspaper delivery there, right? Making it the first time that the highest level of alert has been sent out in the northern prefecture. The warning affecting the town of Fukushima in southwestern Hokkaido is expected. Fukushima, huh? Fukushima. What else is Fukushima known for? Apparently, the bears like a little bit of a glowing human meat. Right, is expected to be effective through the month of August 11th. The highest level of a three-stage alert is issued when a bear attack against humans in an urban area or its vicinity. The measure was taken after a 52-year-old man was delivering newspapers and found dead in bushes in the early hours Saturday with wounds believed to be caused by a bear. The man uh, was apparently attacked near the entrance of a house and then dragged into the bushes, according to an investigative source. His body had claw marks all over and bites, mainly on his abdomen. The bear was about 1 to 1.5 meters in body length. Right? It did not run away even when a witness shouted. Local hunters and police are searching for it to kill it. Under the brown bear warning, which was issued for the first time. Now, this is not a 1 meter bear to 1.5 meters is between 4 foot. The bear is around 4 foot, 4.5 feet. Is what I suspect. It's unfortunate that this gentleman lost his life, but that's kind of a small bear. I don't think that mutant bears. I'm beginning to wonder if this attack was from some kind of rabid rabies affected bear. It's unusual for bears to attack like that, especially a smaller bear attacking a human. Okay, it's it's a surprise. Okay, it's a surprise. Final story of the day. American pronghorn calf rescued by San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance. Rescuers in the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance swooped in to save an underweight American pronghorn fawn found struggling on a private land in New Mexico. How did they swoop in from San Diego? Rescuers Melody Talus and Marty Swain made the 13-hour drive from San Diego Safari Park in Escondido, all right, to the New Mexico property where the pronghorn, an animal that resembles a deer but is actually more closely related to a giraffe, was found underweight and dehydrated. There was a landowner that saw the little fawn wandering around his property, and it's not normal for a pronghorn to do when they're just born. They are known as tuckers. They tuck away in a little spot until their mom comes back and gets them. The Wildlife Zoo Alliance senior public relations representative Amanda Martinez said the fawn was given some initial care at the New Mexico Wildlife Center before being transported back. It wasn't being so did it escape from the San Diego Zoo and make it all the way to New Mexico? A 13-hour drive is swooping. Thanks to the quick work of everyone involved, from the local landowner who discovered the fawn to multiple institutions, the young pronghorn survives and is now healthy and adjusting to his new home in San Diego. Look, I don't mind the fawn being saved, and pronghorn sheep are kind of, or pronghorn antelope, whatever the heck you want to call them, are they're they're interesting animals. But most likely, this fawn was calved, right, or born, and its mother never came back. His mother went out for a meal and never came back. And I don't think it's an abandonment issue. Okay? Because what they're not telling you in this story is they have reintroduced wolves in several of these areas in New Mexico. Now, I don't know for sure whether or not this is one of the conservation areas where they reintroduced wolves, but would it surprise me if it was? No. New Mexico has a lot of wildlife land. It has a lot of U.S. land that's open. It's a very, population-wise, from U.S. population, human population, is very sparse. Plenty of areas for wildlife to take to go. Okay, uh, I suspect that the mother was eaten by a predator, right? Or, I hate to say this, could easily have been over and taken out by a human because it was out in the road when a human came around a corner. These things happen. All right, everybody, that's all I've got for today. I appreciate you all coming out and listening to my little rants and raves this morning. Hope you all have a good day, and I will talk at you all later.